Let's begin with a hard truth. The quality of your life depends heavily on who you allow access to your energy. You don't just need to protect your money, your time, or your space. You need to guard your mind and soul from the people who know exactly how to manipulate it. There are people walking this earth who don't want your love. They want your obedience. They don't want your presence. They want your silence. And unless you learn how to recognize them by what they ask of you, you will bleed for people who wouldn't give you a drop if you were dying. When we talk about energy, we often think of physical stamina or the fuel needed to go about our day. But there's a deeper kind of energy, the kind that flows from your mental clarity, your emotional balance, your spiritual core. This energy is your life force, and it's not limitless. Yet, far too often, people give it away freely, unaware of how deeply it affects every other area of their life. The first keynote, "Your energy is not for sale," isn't just a reminder. It's a declaration, a bold, unwavering statement that your inner world is sacred, and not everyone deserves access to it. There's a certain kind of person who doesn't ask for your help in the traditional sense. They don't need you to solve a problem. They need you to carry their weight. They subtly lean on your empathy, knowing you'll say yes even when it hurts you. And they keep coming back, not because they're helpless, but because they know you haven't learned to say no. These are the people who drain you slowly, conversation by conversation, request by request. They disguise dependency as closeness and chaos as urgency. They take from your spirit, and if you're not careful, you'll wake up one day realizing that your peace has been quietly eroded. People like this are not always toxic in the obvious way. In fact, some of them will seem kind, sweet, even appreciative, but behind the surface, there's a pattern. You always feel tired after they leave. You always feel obligated to say yes. You always find yourself solving problems that aren't yours to fix. That's not generosity. That's exploitation in disguise. You have to understand something critical. Your energy is not renewable in the way people expect it to be. You cannot keep giving and giving without recharging. And when you continuously prioritize the needs of others over your own well-being, you begin to lose connection with your own center. You begin to resent, to grow bitter, to feel lost. And what's worse, they don't notice. Why? Because they're not interested in your restoration. They're only interested in your service. Some people don't come into your life to support you. They come to survive off of you. And you're their meal, your strength, your empathy, your attention. It feeds something broken in them that they don't want to fix on their own. You become a distraction from their own responsibilities. And as long as you're willing to play that role, they will keep handing you their burdens without ever asking how you're holding up. It's not selfish to protect your energy. It's survival. You were not created to be someone else's emotional crutch. You were not born to be a container for other people's drama, guilt, or chaos. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to step back. You are allowed to choose yourself again and again, without apology. The most powerful people in the world are not the loudest, the wealthiest, or the most connected. They are the ones who know where to direct their energy and where to withdraw it. They know that their attention is currency. Their time is sacred. Their peace is non-negotiable. And if something costs them their energy without giving anything back in return, they don't entertain it. Start observing your conversations. Take note of how you feel after spending time with someone. Do you feel uplifted, inspired, calm? Or do you feel drained, anxious, and uneasy? Your energy never lies. The body and soul always give you a signal. You just have to listen. You don't have to explain why you're pulling away. You don't need to justify your peace. The people who truly love you won't require you to burn yourself to keep them warm. The next time someone demands your emotional labor without reciprocation, remember this: you were not born to be everyone's solution. You were born to be your own sanctuary, and the moment you decide that your energy is off, limits to those who only take, you begin to create a life rooted in clarity, purpose, and real connection. The people who deserve your energy are the ones who don't ask for it constantly. They show up for you as much as you show up for them. They understand boundaries. They recognize that your time and attention are gifts, not entitlements. These people are rare. But when you start honoring your own energy, they start showing up. Because like attracts like, and people who love themselves won't settle for relationships that feel like transactions. So let today be the moment you say it out loud. My energy is not for sale, not to guilt. Not to manipulation, not to people who only remember me when they need something. I choose peace, I choose presence, I choose me. There is a fine line between empathy and enablement. When someone constantly asks for your time without regard for your time, your peace, your responsibilities, they're not asking out of need. They're demanding out of entitlement. And the moment you surrender to that pattern, you lose a piece of your identity. The second keynote, your time is not a tool for their convenience, is a call to reclaim your most precious, non-renewable resource, your time. People will take as much time from you as you allow. They'll interrupt your focus, drain your attention, and burden you with their problems if they know you don't value your own schedule. And here's the brutal truth. They won't stop, not because they're evil, but because they've learned you're available even when you shouldn't be. They've learned that your life, your goals, your stillness always come second. And the more you make room for their convenience, the more your own dreams are pushed to the margins. We live in a world where being busy has become a badge of honor, but in reality, it's often a symptom of misplaced priorities. Your calendar should not be filled with obligations that don't move your life forward. It should not be a waiting room for other people's emergencies. Every moment you spend catering to someone else's irresponsibility is a moment stolen from your own evolution. And if you allow yourself to be constantly pulled in directions that have nothing to do with your growth, you'll look back in 5 years and wonder where all your potential went. Not every request deserves a yes. Not every favor is worth your time. There are people who ask for your presence not because they value it, but because they're too lazy to solve things on their own. They don't want guidance. They want a substitute for their effort. And when you show up for them, again and again, at the cost of your own progress, you're training them to view your life as secondary. You become a default option, a safety net, a human vending machine that dispenses help on demand. That's not love, that's convenience, and you were not born to be convenient. You need to build a boundary that protects your hours, your minutes, your seconds like sacred currency, because that's what it is. Time is the only thing you can never get back, and when you give it to people who don't deserve it, who don't respect it, you are not being kind, you are being robbed. There's something powerful that happens when you begin to say, not now, or even more powerfully, no. It doesn't make you selfish, it makes you sovereign. It's the declaration that your mission matters, that your peace matters, that your time is not a blank check for other people to cash whenever they feel like it. When someone interrupts your rest, your creativity, your silence, ask yourself, is this urgent, or is this just poor planning on their part? Are they reaching out because they truly need you, or because they know you're too polite to refuse? Your time is not a vending machine where people insert problems and expect instant solutions. You don't owe anyone your time just because they ask. You don't have to explain why you're unavailable. You don't have to justify the need for solitude or focus. If someone cannot respect your boundaries around time, they're not respecting you. Think about the goals you've set for yourself, the ones you quietly dream about late at night, the ones you promise you'll pursue when things settle down. The truth is, things don't settle down. You make space, you carve out time, you draw lines, and that requires cutting out the distractions, especially the human ones. You are not here to be someone else's emotional secretary or emergency contact every time they fail to plan. Your time is your responsibility, and if you don't honor it, no one else will. This is not about becoming cold or detached. It's about understanding that real love, real friendship, real connection never asks you to shrink, delay, or discard your own life in order to be of use. When you start choosing your time over people's convenience, a few will get offended. That's okay. Let them be. Because the ones who matter, the ones who see you as a whole, complex, valuable human being, they won't take offense when you protect your time. They'll admire it, they'll model it, they'll grow with you, not against you. So make this the moment you draw the line. No more people pleasing, No more emergency favors that aren't truly emergencies. No more being the first call for chaos. You have work to do, you have a life to build, and your time is the soil from which that life will grow. Guard it, respect it, live like it matters, because it does. There's a certain type of person who always needs something from you, but never offers anything in return. They don't invest in you emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. They only show up when they want, when they need, when they're desperate. And more often than not, they ask for your validation. They seek your praise, your approval, your compliments, your constant affirmation that they are enough. But here's the problem. No matter how much you give, it's never enough. Because they're not trying to feel better about themselves. They're trying to survive off your energy. When someone asks for your validation constantly, they aren't just asking for kind words. They're asking you to carry the weight of their self-worth. And that's a heavy burden to bear, especially when it's not your job. Your role in life is not to constantly remind someone else of their value while they make no effort to see it within themselves. That's emotional labor, and it drains you in ways that are invisible but devastating. The truth is, when someone leans too heavily on you for validation, it's often a sign that they are avoiding the hard inner work. They don't want to face their insecurities. They don't want to confront their wounds. So they look to you, again and again, to patch the hole they refuse to heal. And while it might feel noble to keep lifting them up, you have to ask, what is it costing you? It's not your responsibility to be someone's emotional mirror. If someone is not doing the work to build their own confidence, then your compliments become a drug. They become dependent on you to feel whole, and you become exhausted from trying to make them feel good. It's not sustainable. You're not a therapist. You're not a savior. And the longer you enable that cycle, the more you lose touch with your own voice, your own center. What happens when your energy runs out? What happens when you're the one who needs support, but they've never learned how to offer it? You'll find yourself in a one-way relationship, constantly pouring, never receiving. And slowly, you'll begin to resent them. Not because they're bad people, but because you trained them to believe your validation was their oxygen. You trained them to reach outward instead of inward. You trained them to survive off you. Validation is not inherently wrong. We all need to be seen, heard, appreciated, but there's a line between support and dependence. If someone is asking you again and again to remind them of their worth, their beauty, their intelligence, their success, without ever building those beliefs internally, then you're no longer encouraging them. You're enabling them. And here's the hard part. When you stop giving that validation, they might accuse you of being cold. They might say you've changed, but you haven't changed. You've just recognized that love does not mean sacrificing your own emotional clarity for someone who refuses to find theirs. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to say, you need to believe this for yourself. It takes courage to stop feeding someone else's need for constant approval. It takes courage to step back and let them struggle with the discomfort of self-doubt, because that's where real growth happens. That's where self-respect is born, not from compliments, but from truth. From effort, from reflection. You deserve relationships where validation flows both ways, where someone encourages you just as much as you encourage them, where compliments come from a place of abundance, not emotional hunger, where your energy is met with gratitude, not expectation. You deserve to feel supported, not used. So, if someone in your life keeps asking for your validation without ever doing the internal work, pause. Ask yourself what that pattern is doing to you. Are you helping them grow, or are you helping them avoid growth? Are you lifting them up, or are you holding them up while your own feet begin to slip? You are not a rescue mission. You are not a bottomless well of affirmations. You are not here to convince someone of their worth every single day. That is not love. That is sacrifice disguised as service. You don't owe anyone your energy when it comes at the cost of your emotional peace. The most loving thing you can do sometimes is to step away. Let them stand on their own. Let them fall, get up, and realize they were always capable of seeing their own value. It's not easy, but it's necessary for them. And for you, you are not selfish for protecting your emotional boundaries. You are not unkind for expecting reciprocity. And you are not heartless for saying, "I can't be your mirror anymore." Because real healing doesn't come from external validation. It comes from within, and only they can find it. When someone constantly asks you for your time, but offers none of theirs in return, you need to take a step back and evaluate the relationship for what it truly is, one-sided. Time is one of the most valuable resources you have in this life. You can never get it back. Every second you give to someone else is a second you can't spend on your own goals, your own healing, or your own peace. So when a person repeatedly takes your time without giving any of theirs, without showing up for you, without investing back into the relationship, that's not love, that's entitlement. You have to understand that not everyone who demands your time deserves your presence. Some people believe that because you were once available to them, you should always be available. They assume your time is theirs to claim without regard for your boundaries, your priorities, or your personal growth. And the more you say yes to those people, the more you say no to yourself. Over time, this begins to chip away at your sense of self, worth, and self-respect. People who truly care about you will honor your time. They won't make you feel guilty for setting limits. They won't show up only when it's convenient for them. They'll value your presence because they understand its weight. But those who are only interested in what you can offer them will never think twice about wasting your time. They'll call, message, drop in, vent, ask, demand, and expect. And they'll do it all without pausing to consider how much of yourself you've already given. The hardest truth is this: people will take and take until you stop them. If you've been conditioned to always be available, especially out of kindness, loyalty, or guilt, then people will learn to see your time as limitless. But it isn't. You only have so many hours in a day, so many days in a year. And if you're not careful, those days will disappear in the service of people who never plan to give anything back. You owe it to yourself to protect your time like you protect your peace. If someone always expects you to listen to their problems but never asks how you're doing, that's not mutual care. If someone expects you to show up for them in crisis but disappears when you're hurting, that's not love. That's convenience disguised as friendship. And if someone only calls you when they need something, your attention, your help, your presence, then they don't value you. They value access to you. Your time is a form of currency. Every minute you spend with someone is an investment. And just like you wouldn't pour money into a business that never grows, you shouldn't pour your time into relationships that never evolve. If a person isn't willing to grow with you, to show up for you, to share the weight of connection with you, then what are you really building together? It's okay to say no. It's okay to step away. It's okay to protect your calendar the same way you protect your emotions. You don't owe your availability to anyone who doesn't appreciate it. And you certainly don't owe it to people who never ask how you're doing, never support your goals, and never consider your boundaries. Setting limits doesn't make you selfish. It makes you self-aware. It means you recognize that your time has value. It means you understand that every moment you give away should serve a purpose, either love, growth, joy, healing, or connection. If it doesn't serve any of those things, then it's not worth giving. And here's the powerful shift. Once you begin to say no to people who misuse your time, you begin to say yes to everything else you've been missing. You say yes to peace. You say yes to rest. You say yes to your own ambitions, your own healing, your own spiritual growth. You reclaim the hours you used to give away, and you start pouring them into the life you actually want to build. The truth is, not everyone deserves your time. Not everyone deserves your presence. Just because someone asks for it doesn't mean you're obligated to give it. You are allowed to choose who gets access to you. You are allowed to walk away from people who only show up when they need something. You are allowed to protect your time, and in doing so, protect your soul, because time isn't just a clock ticking. It's your energy. It's your attention. It's your life, and you only get one. Don't spend it on people who won't spend theirs on you. When someone asks you to suppress your truth, your voice, your values, your beliefs, That's a red flag you cannot ignore. It doesn't matter how charming they are, how close you once were, or how much they claim to care about you. If a person insists that you stay silent when it matters most, they are not protecting you, they are controlling you. And no matter how it's disguised, control has no place in any healthy relationship, friendship, or environment. Speaking your truth is one of the most powerful things you can do as a human being. It's the core of your identity. It's what separates you from the crowd. It's your inner compass. And when someone tells you not to speak up, not to disagree, not to question, not to express your discomfort, your needs, or your truth, they are really saying one thing: my comfort matters more than your authenticity. That kind of dynamic will drain you, break you, and eventually silence everything unique and powerful inside of you. Often, this starts subtly. Maybe it's someone saying, "Don't bring that up right now," or "Let it go, it's not a big deal," or "You're being too sensitive," and so you retreat. You bite your tongue, you hold it in, but every time you do, something inside you shrinks. Your confidence, your clarity, your sense of self, all of it takes a hit. Because the more you stay quiet for others, the louder your inner conflict becomes. You were not created to be silent. You were not born to fit in, to follow the crowd, or to make everyone else feel comfortable at the cost of your own truth. You were born with a voice, and not just a voice to speak, but a voice to challenge, to question, to stand up, to lead, to protect what's right. Even when it's unpopular, that voice has purpose. That voice is your power. And when someone tries to take that from you, even if they do it with a smile, you must recognize it for what it is: an attempt to mold you into something you are not. Silencing is a form of manipulation. It teaches you that peace is only possible when you comply, that love is only offered when you stay small, that belonging requires you to betray yourself, but that's not real peace, that's not love, that's a performance. And the longer you perform, the further you drift from who you really are. People who truly respect you will never ask you to deny your truth. They won't need you to shrink in order to feel tall. They won't ask you to agree when you don't, or stay quiet when your heart is screaming. Instead, they'll lean in, they'll listen even when it's uncomfortable, they'll ask questions, they'll grow, they'll meet you where you are and respect the place you're coming from, because that's what love looks like. That's what real connection requires. You don't need to yell to be heard. You don't need to argue to speak truth. But you do need to speak. You do need to stand. You do need to hold the line when it matters most. Because the moment you allow someone to silence your voice is the moment you give them the power to rewrite your reality. And once that power is handed over, it's hard to take back. If anyone in your life consistently asks you to suppress your voice, walk away. If they only love the version of you that agrees with them, walk away. If they call you too much whenever you speak truth, walk away. Because staying in those spaces will not make you more lovable, it will only make you more lost. And there is nothing more dangerous than being lost inside your own life, your own body, your own mind, just because you were trying to make someone else feel okay. The truth will always make some people uncomfortable. But that's not your problem. Your job is not to keep the peace through silence. Your job is to speak, live, and walk in truth, because that is where your power lies. And the more you walk in that power, the more you attract people who love you for the real you, not the version you shrink into for their approval. Never apologize for having a voice. Never apologize for using it. Speak your truth even if your voice shakes. Speak it in rooms that don't want to hear it. Speak it when it would be easier to stay quiet. Because your truth is not just for you. It's a light. And someone, somewhere, needs to see it shine. When someone constantly asks for your forgiveness but never changes their behavior, that's a cycle you need to break. It's not humility they're displaying. It's manipulation disguised as remorse. Forgiveness is a powerful, beautiful act. It can heal wounds, restore hope, and mend relationships. But when it becomes a tool for someone to reset their wrongs without ever holding themselves accountable, it becomes toxic. And if you keep forgiving without requiring change, you're not being kind, you're enabling. There is a clear difference between a mistake and a pattern. A mistake is an exception. A pattern is a personality. Someone who values you will slip up, yes, but they'll also take real steps to ensure it doesn't happen again. They'll reflect, they'll grow, they'll shift how they speak, how they act, how they respond. But if they keep repeating the same harmful behaviors, lying, gaslighting, disrespecting boundaries, taking advantage of your time or emotions, and then simply say, "I'm sorry," you need to realize that those words have no weight without action. Forgiveness is not a get out of consequences free card. It doesn't erase the past or remove the need for accountability. And it's not your responsibility to keep being the one who gets hurt, just so someone else can feel better about themselves. Real relationships require both love and respect. Without both, it's imbalance. And imbalance always leads to emotional exhaustion. Some people are addicted to being forgiven. They rely on your compassion more than their own conscience. They know your heart is big, that you want to believe the best in them. And so they exploit that. They say what you want to hear. They promise what you're desperate to receive. But when the moment passes, they go right back to the same old patterns, and you're left picking up the pieces again, wondering what you did wrong. But the truth is, you didn't do anything wrong by loving deeply. What becomes wrong is when you keep sacrificing your peace for someone who refuses to change. Forgiveness should never be used as a substitute for boundaries. You can forgive someone and still walk away. You can let go of the resentment and still say, "I won't let you hurt me again." You can wish them well and still block their number. That doesn't make you bitter. It makes you wise. You're not being cold, you're being clear, and clarity is love, especially love for yourself. People show you who they are through consistency. If the only time someone is kind is after they've done something wrong, that's not growth, it's damage control. Don't be fooled by temporary softness if it's always followed by repeated harm. You deserve more than apologies. You deserve change. You deserve emotional safety, mutual effort, and someone who values your trust enough not to keep breaking it. This is about self-respect. This is about knowing when enough is enough. You can have a heart full of compassion and still say, "I won't keep doing this." That's not weakness, that's strength. Forgiveness is for you. Yes, to release the weight, to heal. But it is not a license for others to treat you however they want. If someone truly cares about you, they won't keep putting you in a position to forgive them over and over for the same thing. They'll take accountability, they'll seek help, they'll listen, they'll grow. They won't just say, "I'm sorry." They'll ask, "How can I make this right?" And most importantly, they'll prove it with consistent action, not repeated apologies. You don't have to be anyone's emotional doormat just to prove you have a good heart. You don't have to keep giving someone chances just because you have history together. You are not obligated to remain loyal to someone who makes pain your norm. You have the right to protect your peace, to walk away from cycles that keep you stuck, and to demand more than words. Forgiveness is sacred. Don't let it become routine. Don't let it become expected. Don't let it be the bandage others rely on so they don't have to do the hard work of change. Let your forgiveness be real, and let your boundaries be stronger, because peace is not found in always saying yes. Peace is found in knowing when to say no more,